Jai Hind, welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. George Soros literally opened his mouth and brought the wrath of the world against him, if I may say that. Everybody's going to analyze who he is, what he said, and why did he say so. In that endeavor, we've also got something for you with regards to telling you how the money trail works within India. Anytime one wants to investigate into something, as they say in the olden times, follow the money, and you'll get to know what exactly is happening. In that endeavor, I have with me Lieutenant Commander Sudhir Kandhari. Sir, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Aadi, and it feels great to be back on your channel again. And good evening to all the audience and viewers. As a matter of fact, today's topic is slightly different. It's basically, again, if you look at it, is the war of perception and the way human mind works. The easiest way to win a war is like create chaos in the country, and you don't have to have a military war or military confrontation. So, how do you go about it? Narratives and propaganda. Now, narrative is a sequence of events wherein you get some data which could be fabricated, manufactured, or it could be the real data correlated with existing fault lines in your system. And India happens to be a diversified society, and we have our own inherent fault lines. Our neighbors had been taking undue advantage of that. And this had been happening before also, not in India, outside India also. So, narratives have been used for political purposes by political parties, movements, ethnic groups, and religious communities to justify the cause of their emergence. Just to present diagnosis of the problems facing a community, which is like a big problem in India today. To supposedly expose the so-called conspiracies and intrigues of adversaries and to present a method for a successful struggle in order to resolve a socio-political challenge. And in the modern day, misinformation, narratives, propaganda, they spread like wildfire. One post on the WhatsApp or Facebook, and it just goes like the Arab Spring protest happened that way. Now, when this narrative is put into action, it becomes propaganda. And we all know what propaganda can do. Unrestrained propaganda is what causes friction in the society, and most clashes are a result of unrestrained propaganda. And we had seen it a number of times in our country. Now, the problem is that in the International Court of Justice, the laws are there, everything is fine. No country, no political leader of other country, no head of state is supposed to wage a propaganda war against other countries. But what about the private individuals and the corporates? You can't take them to the International Court of Justice. And each country provides them, in a democracy, which most of the countries are, freedom of speech. We keep saying that it comes with the responsibility, restrictions are there, but these guys somehow get away. Can we have that first slide of the thing? Now, when we talk about all this propaganda and narratives, one name come to mind is George Soros. Before we really talk about him, look at his connections. Few names come up each and every time in any incident. Later on, they denied, they say we were not involved. A simple example, what Harsh Mandar was doing in CA protests for that matter. His name is there in this particular slide. They say that protest was organic or were organic. There is no protest which is not organized. One thing is very clear. Nothing is spontaneous. The planning is done almost 2 years in advance, and they have the inside information that government is going to come out with so and so, and what we should be doing, how much money will be required, and from where that money should be coming. Talking about George Soros, no, these few wealthy individuals and corporates, they have taken a human right activism to a different level altogether. We all know about it, to a different level altogether, whereby they don't want to follow the norms set up by the international law and order. They want to implement their thoughts on everybody. What they feel their philosophy is the final word, and others should accept it in total. Nothing else. Now, when I talk about George Soros, just a disclaimer. I'm not adding any mish masala like some other channels are doing. They share video clips and make over exaggerated claims in a desperate attempt to put two and two together. Aadi, we have a number of slides. We will go through it, but before I will just tell you how the money is, used and from where the money comes. Now the money part of it. We all know that George Soros broke Bank of England. He reduced ringgit value by 20%. Prime Minister of Malaysia at that time, Mahathir, and George Soros, literally, they actually had word to word. They had a verbal spat in the World Bank meeting. George Soros wanted to meet him in private, and Mahathir refused to meet him. He called him a moron, and George Soros called him a menace. George Soros wanted to discuss with him in person the international economic affairs, because the way Malaysia has progressed during Mahathir's time, in 20 odd years or 16 or 15 or 20 odd years, that was becoming unbearable for few individuals. Malaysia is an oil-rich country. They were self-sufficient. They were exporting. Again, oil and drug mafia comes into play here. You know that during that particular, we can remove this slide if you want. During that particular time, Asian crisis, when Malaysian ringgit dropped 20% in value and stopped trading on the Hong Kong exchange, Thai baht also nosedived.
Same time.
Indonesia, Malaysia, your Thailand, and South Korea. The ripple effect was so much, all four countries had a government change. And George Soros himself said all of the above in one of his videos. And he says, I'm out here to make money. I don't care for the social consequences. What kind of philanthropist he is? Like, no. यार मुझसे 100 रुपए लेके 10 रुपए वापस मुझको करके तुम बोल रहे कि मैं तुझको 10 रुपए दिया ना, देखा, you're not talking about the 100 rupees here. That is known as financial war. The kind of chaos you can create in a country just by liquidating all assets and making their currency non-tradable. Mahathir went to the extent of telling World Bank stop currency trading on the exchange, which World Bank chairman said, no, that's a done thing. And World Bank, what we call chief, was talking in favor of Mr. Soros. So you can well imagine their connections, their reach, to what level they can go to change the government or regime. Now, in my last program with you, last talk show, Adi, I had mentioned about HSBC Bank, that Sinaloa cartel and Colombia's Norte del Velegui cartel, they laundered money to the tune of $881 million, and they were fined $1.9 billion. But bank won't falter. They won't let the bank falter. Excuse: if the bank fails, the world economy will collapse. Now, what is $1.9 billion in 2011 or whatever time that was for HSBC Bank or for the world or the the economy to collapse? If you shut down one bank, the other banks will go on. Not only that bank. In the past, ING Bank, Barclays Bank, Credit Suisse, Royal Bank of Scotland, Lloyds Banking Group, they all facilitate transaction with rogue nations, Iran, Libya, Sudan, Myanmar, in violation of Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions. Now, these are the financial vertical crimes actually.
Hmm.
But the situation is such you cannot really go and tell the bank, okay, shut down your all assets, are seized, you henceforth no money with you, the bank is bankrupt. So you charge them penalty and let them go, and things will keep happening in future. I'll just give an example for that matter. Have you ever heard of a word known as illiquid scripts, illiquid stocks? Have you heard of any word like this? So what is that? A stock lying in a strip lying in a strip lying in a dormant state, which no investor is what you call bothered to buy or sell because it has no value. And one fine day, the guy who wants to get involved in money laundering, what he does is he buys that stock for say 10 rupees, gives the check to the broker. Adi, he gives check to the broker, and the thing is put in his demat account. After a few months or a year or a couple of years, that's what I said, the time period for these things, like they plan well in advance. After 1 or 2 years, the price will be rigged by big brokers. That broker may not be knowing what is the final intention of person who's manipulating him. He has to get his commission. That's why I want to convey that message to everybody. Think before somebody is making you to do an illegal thing which is legally illegal or illegally legal. It can have far-reaching consequences. Now, that big brokers will hike the price, so it has become $100. Now, this guy will send $100 of what you call this particular, 100 rupees of, we're talking in Indian currency, share. Gullible investors who have bought at the peak of say 80 or 90 rupees, their money is gone. It's your money they are playing with, using against you. Please remember this. This is financial terrorism. It's happening in our country too. Now that 100 rupees share, the same guy will buy it back. Only rupees 10 will be put back in his account, bank account. 100 minus 10, 90 left. Out of 90 service fee taxation or whatever it is, 85 rupees is paid back to him by cash. Now, where that money will go, you tell me? You can't use such a huge money for a normal thing. It has to be used in some nefarious network for that matter. Plus, the number of people who suffered losses thinking prices going up, I'll buy, and few will become broke absolutely, few may commit suicide also. That's what happens in the stock market. Now, coming back to this again, Then we say, like, no, in the TV debates, they will say ED charge sheet filed for shell company, this and that, whatever they talk about. Opposition will say ED is a carrot, sorry, what you call the cage parrot. ED success rate is not even 1% in conviction. And you cannot find the money trail. How they'll convict anybody? Or shell company will cease to exist the very next day after the deal is over. The man who actually carried out that transaction, you mean to is gonna say, is my passport, this is my Aadhaar card number, and this is so and so, and this is my account. He'll be having a fake identity to run a shell company which won't be existing in any case. You go to the broker will say, I don't know. I gave him 10 rupees account in the bank. Now, how do you carry out this particular chain at all? You know something wrong has been done, but nobody will know how to cash them. That money comes back in the market for all the activities. अरे प्रोटेस्ट में बिरयानी नहीं खाई जाती, काजू किशमिश नहीं खाया जाता, कौन खिलाएगा तुमको? एक मूवमेंट कनाडा से हो रहा है, and then you say that money, lot of people are donating. Yeah, who donates that kind of money? You tell me. This is how it is affecting our country, and it will keep affecting us if we, as a citizens ourselves, are not careful of such activities. Now, Mr. Soros is well known. Like, not many controversies. As I said, you can't catch it. There was an alleged, I would say alleged, not proven, attempt at ousting Putin, destabilizing EU through mass migration, backing Arab Spring protest groups. During Bank of England incident, Malaysia lost billion of pounds. मारा कहां पे, निशाना कहां पे जाता है? India must have also lost because each country used to invest in sterling pound those days. Gold and sterling pounds were the main currency those days. Now, this is just the beginning, I have said. Now, Aadi, if you want to ask any questions, again, I would say that the first diagram that we saw, the flow chart, that is basically, you see the common names. HRHF, founded in 2019. Hindus for Human Rights. Arre damn it, 2019 mein, what human rights? Suddenly you come up with the idea that Hindus have become so bad and Hindutva has become so bad they need to be corrected. अरे आज तक हमको तो नहीं पता चला कि what is wrong with us here, and you're trying to tell us all the time we are wrong. ये narrative किसने create किया है कि we want to be Hindu Rashtra? I don't know who has created this narrative. First of all, we never said we want Hindu Rashtra. Somebody peddles the narrative, makes a propaganda, and it comes back on you only. Now you see the George Soros connections world over. Different NGOs. You can't even go to ICJ. He's saying he's doing a good job. Yeah, here you can lead me further the way you want it. The slides you have.
NGO is the bottom line, sir.
Now the question comes from where NGO is getting the money, who is funding them, and who is funding the funder. George Soros is 92 today. He'll be gone someday. God may give him good life. I pray for his what you call well-being, healthy and long life. To see more and more defeats in our life, he'll be defeated in India. Take it from me. Already so much of backlash is there, which was never there in any other country. Now, I'll tell you another thing. Now, you see the irony. Everybody knows 2011, Arundhati Roy. She said, Anna may not be knowing, but there's a private capital inflow. Mr. Arvind Kejriwal's NGO has got $400,000 from Ford Foundation. One, Arvind Kejriwal said no comment, prove it first. अरे इतना बोल दिया यार, वो तो नैरेटिव बन नहीं पाता है, तुम दूसरा नैरेटिव बना देते हो लेकर. ये मैं नहीं बोल रहा यार, यू वॉच दैट वीडियो वरुण दत्ती राय, उसका उसने बोला है बात ये. चलो आदि, we'll move on from here.
Done, sir.
No,
You want to discuss the money?
Any questions you want?
No, let's get into the money and then we'll come on to the questions.
Yeah.
So,
You see, this is the way your what we call it works. The narrative, the right side, the diagram. Mobilizing followers to action. That is after the propaganda has taken place. Manipulate algo. Inject content into echo chambers, media, and back to targeted audience. Steve Jobs, the most powerful person in the world, is a storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation that is to come. Next one. Now, see, this is a financial hit, as I said, a financial missile. Adani. You can see the diagram and understand how the short selling is done and how the shares are done in US market or Adani bonds. And the maximum of Adani, what you call loan, is from the against the bond security, for that matter. Now here you tell me, who is the lender? He's usually the broker. Now he has to go to the market to collect that many what you call shares to give it to him for short selling. Anderson Hindenburg guy has not disclosed his name till date. There are two possibilities. If he discloses the name, then his balance sheet needs to be checked. इतना पैसा आया कहां से उतने शेयर्स खरीद लिए उसने? भाई उसको कोलेटरल तो रखना पड़ेगा ना, वो मनी पैसा आया कहां से? Then how did he get information? Adani's balance sheets are audited by the CAs, accepted by SEBI, right? He says, whistleblowers, the inside guy, gave me the info. She may give him the information. That doesn't make any difference. There's something known as forensic audit. In forensic audit, you see through the microscopic lens and then physically verify. उसने वो भी नहीं किया. एक इनसाइड इंफॉर्मेशन पे कुछ रिपोर्ट पब्लिश कर दिया और शॉर्ट कर दिया. दैट इज ब्लडी इनसाइड ट्रेडिंग के अंदर से इंफॉर्मेशन मिला इसको. कोर्ट में तो बोल नहीं सकता ये बात. अब कोर्ट में जाके अगर अडानी ने तो केस कर दिया उसका यूएसए में, that's a different thing. It may take 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, whatever it might be. Adani will win the case or lose the case depending on who's right and who is wrong. But what I'm talking here is, अगर वो बोलता है कि मैंने कोई इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं थी और वो उसे डिनाई कर देता है, या 5 या 10% खरीदने बेचने से मार्केट नहीं मूव करता है. 70-80% शेयर्स खरीदने पड़ते हैं मार्केट में वॉल्यूम से बाकी लोगों का बेवकूफ बनाने के लिए. अरे 50-60% की तो तूने मूवमेंट की होगी. अगर वो मूवमेंट की है और एंड यू पब्लिश द रिपोर्ट साइमल्टेनियसली और मे बी बिफोर और आफ्टर, व्हाट इज दैट? मैनिपुलेशन. अब उस पे इफ अडानी पुट्स अ डिसगॉर्जमेंट चार्ज, you know what it will lead to? And if it is proven that he has manipulated, he will have to pay back the loss suffered by each individual plus defamation cost to Adani and plus the loss which Adani has suffered that his all projects got delayed because of this man. Why would this guy take such a big risk? You tell me that. Unless and until he's got some strong backing. Even if I lose this case, something goes wrong, I will survive. I'll be penalized, I'll return the money. But that 5 year setback which has been given when Adani was expanding his ports outside India and Haifa and everywhere, strategic importance, and expanding his business, that has been, the progress has been retarded. People don't understand the wider aspect of this. They say, yaar, Adani badmash hai, or yaar, kaun sa business mein badmash hai, so let's assume it. But you see, the good work done has slowed down now. We discussed about Haifa port also in Mediterranean, the importance of it in the last program. Anything you want to know more on this? Now, George Soros bank breaking the. No, you understand George. I will come back to George Soros now. You understand George Soros breaking the bank. How he broke the bank. It's a typical example. You can see and read it yourself. I'll just tell you in a nutshell. Each thing has a fair value. Done. If a guy feels that the price is undervalued, he will buy. If the price is overvalued, he will sell. सब कुछ हो गया. What happened those days when the EU was being on and East and West Germany were being reunited and the Berlin Wall was put down and there were Greek का economic problem in the EU. किसी का value ज़्यादा currency का किसी का कम. I'm not going to those details. Let's cut short here. Here the narrative played the game again. I'm using the word narrative. Please understand that part. Doshmark was, I think, around 2.7 to 1 sterling pound. You can remove this slide now. I'll explain this part. Doshmark was 2.7 with respect to 1 sterling pound. In the EU, at that time, they had taken a decision the fluctuation between the currencies will not be more than 6 to 11%, just to keep a check on everybody. Germany was economically going way ahead because of their economic investment in East Germany. Sterling pound was slightly getting weaker. And at this time, government intervenes to keep the currency strong. All governments do. So they started buying Doshmarks. When they started buying Doshmarks, again, I'm trying to tell you one thing. There's always that inside information from somewhere because these guys have a very strong network. We bought the Doshmarks and went short on sterling pound. And narrative was spread, pound is going to collapse. Pound is going to collapse. He kept repeating this thing for averaging it out over a period of few days. Following him, other big players also went short on what you call sterling pound and went long. They bought the Doshmark. UK, Bank of England kept buying Doshmark, kept buying Doshmark. A stage came when they could not buy any Doshmarks here. And this guy was sitting pretty after on the currency which he has gambled upon. Not gambled, manipulated, I would say. He made 1 billion. Few more guys, others made, somebody made 400 million, somebody made 500 million dollars, somebody made 300 million dollars. That way, Bank of England took a hit of 4 to 5 billion dollars. How? A narrative and propaganda was set up that this thing is going to collapse. Because of what? The turbulent times in Europe. So the baseline is create turbulence, carry out a financial hit. And I won't be surprised in this case, a couple of our neighbors, either side, they may be silently helping one man. They suits their convenience also. लड़ाई करने की क्या जरूरत है? Then you go to the next slide. George Soros back again. Till 2019, read the budget allotted and how much he has spent for actual what he calls it health, justice, governance, and education and everything. Maximum chunk is going to democratic practice and justice reform and rule of law. By what means? By carrying, by creating a narrative. I have a constitution in my country, democratically elected government need not to be as per your choice of democracy. That's all I want to say. See where they spend the money. That's how it is harming our country in many ways, and our progress is slowing down, which we need to increase the pace at this moment. So we can go to the next slide. Now, look at this. My philosophy is no longer a personal matter. It deserves to be taken seriously as a possible contribution to our understanding of reality. I just keep this in your mind. You can remove the slide now, Adi, please. George philosopher said these words, I think in 2009 or somewhere in the East Coast University. East Coast University. Till then, he authored books. Till then, he authored books, but nobody gave any importance to him. I think it was before 2000. He himself said, if you read is what you call it, it's no open source. He started feeling he's a failed philosopher. He started feeling he's a failed philosopher. He started feeling he's a failed philosopher. And he says himself that night I used to write something, I used to forget in the morning. A confused state of mind. And his philosophy, people started calling me for lectures and all after he broke Bank of England. That's his qualification actually. And he talks of his philosophy, which I'll come at the end of the show. So we'll move on to the next slide. He talks of the concepts of fallibility, reflexivity in general terms. He says, tomorrow I shall apply to the financial markets and after that to politics. Do I need to amplify what he wants to say or what intentions he had right from the beginning? That reflexivity is talking of, he's not writing anything new about the human behavior that has been written by many sociologists, psychiatrists, the human behavior scientists. Much has been written about him by philosophers. He has just picked up the things from there, and he says that I have an influence of Popper, one philosopher, and then he's talking about the human behavior in the market. But it's not the human behavior here. You're creating narrative. Basically, you're conning the people. You're carrying on financial hits, which you have admitted yourself. And after that to politics. What do you mean by that? Creating political instability? If you want to apply to the politics, join Republicans or Democrats in your country and contest for elections. That's all. Go to the next one. Sorry. In the last one, he says talk about philosophy of fallibility. Fallibility is errors. The theory of errors in mathematics had been there right from the beginning. Yeah. If anybody is a student of physics or maths, he would know. There's nothing known as a perfect value. There will be always an error in any equation, and whatever after iterations you do, whatever you do, you come to a most probable value. You never come to the actual vertical value. You don't know the actual value. Actual value with reference to what? That's why I said there's a residual error in each everything. And he's applying that to, he's saying to the markets and to the politics. He's trying to impress few people who think they are educated. I call them the literal illiterates in India. By giving some these kind of concepts and words, they feel that he knows quite a lot. And I would request guys to read his particular philosophy. But before reading his philosophy, read other philosophy also here. He has not done anything new. The only thing new he's doing is he is brainwashing people, he's playing the mind games with people by creating narratives and propaganda. Next one. That's what I said. The situations that are thinking participants, the participant view of the world is always partial and distorted. That is the principle fallibility. That as I spoke of, nothing else. And he's using this particular distorted partial in your mind to drive you against a order which is already proven and tested, and to bring his own order the way he feels, and his only order is I should make money and others should not make money. I should control the entire world. He's power hungry, he's fame hungry, nothing else. Our honorable external affairs minister said is dangerous. He's used the right word. Because I'm quoting this from his speech, his lecture at the East Coast University, for people to know what he is exactly. Next, Adi. He says himself, these distorted views can influence the situation to which they relate because false views lead to inappropriate actions. That is the principle of reflexivity. That's the human behavior is talking. Economic theory is built on the concept of equilibrium, and that concept is in direct contradiction with the concept of reflexivity. Economic model is not built on the base of reflexivity because economics is math and you're talking about social science.
So please.
Nothing else. Reflexivity pertains more to the human behavior. Next slide, please, Ali. Feedback loops can be either negative or positive. Negative feedback brings the participant views and the actual situation closer together. Positive feedbacks drive them further apart. In other words, a negative feedback process is self-correcting. By contrast, positive feedback is self-reinforcing. If the students of physics, electrical engineers or electronics, it's I would say, a college day what you call electricity chapter here. In the circuit, you have the feedback. When you have the voltage input, output, there's a loop that. In that, there's a positive feedback and a negative feedback. Positive feedback is more to more and less to less. Now, you're adding up something on that, which I'm talking about self-reinforcing. The entire circuit will become oscillatory. And when you give the negative feedback, that is when you keep feeding it what input, makes a loop, comes here, gives it to the corrector in between, it corrects the value, output again makes the loop till such time it comes to the acceptable limits. So basically, you're using the negative feedback, which is to stabilize the circuits. So what is the new philosophy is talking about? It's a well-practiced science here with a logic, and it says physics has no logic. I don't know. I hope the viewers getting my point of view. What I'm trying to say is this man, to me, he doesn't seem to be a philosopher. Like he's more of a person who likes to carry out hit jobs. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is important, guys. Just read this yourself. Soros' trademark is the ability to cloak his identity as a businessman under the halo of advocating an ideal political order through political and philosophical discourse, and amass great wealth by taking advantage of the Western market system. If I agree to his way of working, he's happy. I am a good guy. I give an example of drug cartels for the HSBC bank, illegal arms dealing in Libya and every other places. You mean to say he's a Mr. A, who could be Mr. Soros for that matter, or anybody for that matter. There is some force behind him giving him that kind of a money. Do you know in Bank of England incident, one of the financial experts in Europe said Soros was this deep up to the eyebrows with marginalized money, margin money. In currency transaction, when you play with the margin, it is 1:20. That is, you give $1, you can take $20 of value. That $1 is the margin money. And he was this deep. Imagine, Adil, if that trade had gone wrong, but UK government had some more money to buy Deutschmark and keep it stable, and UK was not going through a recession at that time. Just imagine, this deep he was, this deep up to the eyebrows. He won't be writing this philosophy, and people won't be following his philosophy. Whosoever the what you call this, the literates in India, they won't be following his philosophy. This because he would have written a book, 3,000 hours on a horseback. My next slide, please. The biggest and most frightening setback occurred in India, where a democratically elected Narendra Modi is creating a Hindu nationalist state, imposing punitive measures on Kashmir, a semi-autonomous Muslim region, and threatening to deprive millions of Muslims of their citizenship. You ask the guys who have toured Kashmir, had gone for holidaying in Kashmir recently or used to go earlier. Just remove this slide here. You can also see it. Is it true? यार 2019 से तो अभी तक आ गए हैं, 2014 के बाद आज तक तो आ गए हैं, अभी तक तो हिंदू राष्ट्र बना नहीं, ना किसी ने जो ये बोल रहा है वो हुआ है। हवा में तीर नहीं मारा, एक नैरेटिव बना रहे हो, और द चार्ट जो पहले देखा है वही 4-5 नाम, वही ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, जस्टिस फॉर ऑल, HFHR, ICNA, SIH, खालिस्तानी मूवमेंट, पैसा मिल रहा है, उसकी हार्ड अर्न मनी नहीं है, उसको कोई देता है, वो खेलता है और उससे और बनाता है हमारा बेवकूफ बना के। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। I deliberately bought this particular Thorndike slide here because this is not in the topic. Postulate the law of effect. Those behavioral responses were most closely followed by a satisfactory result were most likely to become established patterns and to reoccur in response to the same stimulus as. We can remove this slide. Causation and effect. Cause and the effect that Mr. Soros speaks about, but this guy came before him. And what Thorndike said in our scriptures, it has been said long time back, long ago, saints and sages said, karma. For every cause there will be an effect, and for every effect there must have been a cause. And he's talking about the time cycle. We talk of काल चक्र. अरे यार पहले इंडिया आके हिंदुस्तान में पढ़ तो ले, हिंदुइज्म है क्या before making a statement sitting halfway across the globe. ये जितने भी है ना इंडिया में, वो हवाई चप्पल पहनते हैं, वो झोला पहन के, कुर्ता पहन के, खादी का बीड़ी पीते हैं और झोला लटका के, जो इसकी बातों को फॉलो करते हैं, and later on, you know what they do? They drive in Mercs and stay in big bungalows, and they only enjoy the part and have expensive cognac and caviar. You know who I'm referring to. नाम नहीं बोलूंगा उन लोगों के, but आप समझ जाओगे, सब समझते हैं कौन है बोल। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। Now this is the last and the final thing to explain it to you about the human behavior and the errors which he had been talking of. A simple graph of the financial market. Market is never such a smooth curve, but just for your understanding, most of us get trapped at the time of euphoria, and you're gone thereafter. Remember my all the conversation till now, going back to the first initial thing narrative. You've fallen into a trap of narrative at this point. Thereafter, you panic. Other guy is waiting for that. He'll buy here again, or he'll short at this particular point on top. Adi, that's all from me. There's a actually I wanted to. It's a pretty lengthy subject if you really ask me about Soros' personal behavior, but I kept it tried my best to keep it short only. In the last, I would say that I made a note in particular. Uh, yeah, when the elites like them try push the agenda, they are creating a powerful narrative which is capable of swaying public opinions enough for civil unrest to be created in countries. That's all.
Interesting, sir. Thank you so much for that presentation because, of course, he's a threat, and a lot of people wonder that if he's such a recognized threat and he's no friend of the West as well, because he broke the Bank of England, why isn't he under, you know, prison and stuff like that? And that's something which is a common thing, but people fail to realize that he funds politicians and their re-election campaigns. Uh, he funded, I think, $128 million for Joe Biden's midterm.
Midterm and before that to Clinton, Henry Clinton also.
Yeah. So these kind of people have a lot of influence within the establishment of the West, and that's something which is interesting. But the sheer factor that this guy came out and said what he said. Now, this is not the first time he's saying this. He said this before as well. And he's been at this game since 2014. 2014 onwards, he's been doing this. Even prior to that, as a matter of fact, there's enough evidence to showcase that as well. Uh, what one wonders is basically that why has he given a clarion call at a time where the narrative war is literally hot and against the entire game. You're not on top. So that is a bit fishy to me, and it calls a little bit of a speculation because either he is desperate and he is down, or this is a ploy for something bigger.
You know, this ploy for something bigger. I tell you the reason. That's my what we call opinion analysis. Like, I'm not trying to insinuate or instigate anybody. Not trying to talk against anyone, any individual. The kind of restrictions which have come in this country now with digitization of the rupee, how much of free hand you will have to maneuver to play with the dirty money. Again, I repeat, drug and the oil mafia. Everything boils down to that. India is buying oil from Russia, selling it to the West after refining. Is it hurting somebody? Isn't it? Before that, also, no, we are taking baby steps, and I would say, I don't know, like sometimes I feel this government is in a big haste. You started making your things in your own country. Somebody is losing money somewhere. Arms, oil, pharma. That's why I said, if even if this guy is down, there is somebody to back him up, यार. और 92 का 92 years old कितना और जी लेगा यार, मतलब let's be frank about it. उसका जो डेट होगा अगर है भी, वो तो उसके साथ चला जाएगा ना. So the only ploy seems to be like, there are other powers who don't want whatever. Is it okay now, Adi?
Perfect.
So what happens is like basically all vested interests, they are coming together. Our neighbor. In that chart, if you see, most of the guys are from one side of the neighbor, other side is playing a quiet game along with this man.
Interesting. See I mean, to me, it's a game to a larger end as well, but the kind of impact that I guess he wanted to have didn't happen.
It didn't happen. It didn't happen. Uska, I tell you the reason. It didn't happen.
That tells us that the society in India is getting a bit resilient and a bit understanding of the battle of narrative that actually plays around. I'm not saying we are perfect. We are very, I mean, emotional. We are very reactive. We are sometimes misinformed, and we harp on a particular narrative, and which ends up hurting us more than anything else.
Yeah.
But this time, I didn't really see the kind of. It was, if I may, an all-out attack from India towards him rather than the other way around, which was what was expected. One statement and then the ecosystem will come up, and after that there's a whole tamasha that always takes place within India. It didn't happen.
Ecosystem को कहीं से डंडा लगा हुआ है.
It
उसने
didn't
बोल
happen.
दिया, but never underestimate your enemy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's no question.
They
Let's
may
get
be.
into
Yeah, sure.
let's get into some some stuff.
But
Talking about narratives, a report 2 days ago says that Canadian Intel CSIS found Chinese interference in the last Canadian elections to maintain China-friendly parties in the office. Interesting.
yeah, these kind of information, that's why I said there will be people from within who will pass the information. Elections will be rigged world over. I don't know who was telling me, or I was watching your program only. वो एक ही कार बार बार आ रही है और वोट डाल रही है यार मिड टर्म में यूएसए में. आई थिंक इन योर प्रोग्राम ओनली, isn't it? और इंडिया में लोग या पीपल आर मेकिंग नॉइज अबाउट ईवीएम. ईवीएम इज नॉट प्रोग्रामेबल यार. इट्स अ रॉम रीड ओनली मेमोरी. इट्स नॉट ईप्रोम और प्रोम फॉर दैट मैटर. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी बोल दिया, पर लोग ऐसे हैं कहीं जी नहीं तो इसको तो तुम हैक करोगे. हैक कहां से करेगा व्हेन इट इज नॉट कनेक्टेड टू द नेट? और सीधा गेम नैरेटिव प्लेज या टीवी पे वही चलता रहता है. वो फर्स्ट चार्ट पर देखे तो हाइपर ऑडियंस एक्टिविटी, एंगेज मीडिया. अरे मीडिया वांट्स टू अर्न मनी थ्रू एड्स या. सबको पता है कि नहीं हैक कर सकते यार. कॉमन सेंस वाला आदमी वो बता देगा आपको. अब्रॉड में तो फिर भी वो पोस्ट कर रहा है तो कुछ कर सकता है, यहां तो वो भी नहीं कर सकता यार. So next question.
The problem is that is again the narrative.
Yeah, that's what I said, narrative only.
Why is our revenue intelligence so weak? Our embassy did not have any idea about conspiracy of revenue aspects. Oh, okay.
अरे यार,
इतना easy नहीं है इसको पकड़ना.
I explained right in the beginning. I gave an Indian example. That was the simplest example I could give. There are many more complicated and smart ways of doing it. That is why ED knows that money is there, but they really cannot catch the trail. Yeah, because they catch the trail, but they cannot catch that person. That person doesn't exist actually.
Hmm.
Revenue intelligence. That's how ED goes about everything. Otherwise, from where the ED will get information? Yeah. ED becomes a forensic auditor finally. That's why I use the word forensic audit. You will only go and do physical verification after you have the input. Yeah.
I mean,
It's not so easy actually.
it's not that easy, sir, because these guys are a well-oiled ecosystem. If they could hit the Bank of England, where a lot of the Western ecosystems money resides,
Yeah.
uh, this guy has some connect. There's no question about it.
That too, market reacts with a click of the finger nowadays. You have the super fast vertical connectivity speed. You have super fast processors. Those days, nothing. It used to be landline, yeah. And yet, he broke Bank of England. कोई तो है कोई तो है बताने वाला उसको.
Thank you for the wishes, Mr. John, for the 13,000. We just crossed 13,000 subscribers today. Thank you so much. Guys, that reminds me, please like this video. It's important that you help me out in that aspect as well. Please, there's just a small touch that it takes on the like button. Do that. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, please do that. You can help me out by using the QR code, which is there on top of the screen, or by becoming a member or sending us a super sticker or super chat. Let's move on to the next question, sir. Don't you think the ecosystem has a new breed of leaders in the helm of, in the place of George Soros? May I name few?
I said George Soros can go, but that thought somebody else will take over. Maybe
May I
Hindenburg is
name,
next one.
may I name
Never.
few, sir?
Pardon?
May I name few?
Sure.
You have guys in place. I mean, the World Economic Forum students.
Yeah.
I mean, one just actually left, Jacinda Ardern, Justin
Yeah.
Trudeau.
Yeah.
These are all part of that entire ecosystem at the end of it. And that's something that we must. I mean, that's a good question, actually.
Yeah.
Uh, One sec. Yeah. Because of his mechanizations with Asian markets, more than 10,400 people committed suicide, and this guy has no regret about it. He said that in an interview with a plain face, no regrets.
No regrets. That's why I said that he's doing the hello of a businessman, and he's a big philanthropist, but he is a financial criminal.
You know, you should learn how he, as a 14-year-old child, left Hungary when the Germans attacked, and you'll get to know the story of him. Actually, he's an Hungarian Jew, and
That I
he
know. Maybe someday some psychologist will write a analysis on his behavior after he's gone. At the moment, everybody's scared. Nobody can write about on it.
I mean, it's uh, the problem with this entire game is very, very, simple, that we fall for this nonsense and it hurts us. And if you look at each one of these propaganda campaigns, it's basically uh, I mean, there's so many of them which run around the place, and you really don't know where to draw the line. And that's something I think yesterday also me and General Shankar were discussing. We said people need to do a little research. That has to happen. There's no other way in today's mechanized, fast, interconnected world.
Yeah.
No confidence in the US courts. Sorry, they will manage the judges in the USA. I think this is with regards to the Adani.
I doubt it. I doubt very much. I doubt very much. It's not that easy. And then USA needs as much as we need USA. And our honorable EM is doing a good job. But diplomacy also plays a job, and judges cannot be usually manipulated that easily. You know,
Hmm.
when the evidence is there in black and white, and he's hired the best firm in USA, it won't be that easy. I have a, if you ask me, I have a hope uh, 70% he's got a chance to win. Because I'm saying 30% saying if he's wrong, then he may not have it. 70, he's gone to the court. Sorry, if he's gone to the court, that means he has something strong in his hand to prove that he's right.
There are two questions which are on the similar lines. Financial statements are public, and this is a Hindenburg. Hindenburg is a stock operator, and short selling will work as long as Indian businessmen has the mentality to search best deals and short term profits. So they're, I mean, not really related, but pretty much similar questions. Uh, what I would compile of both of them is that the Adani attack was not fully planned well. Having said that, the Indian business sector does have a bit of gaps which need to get filled up.
Yeah, even Soros says that in one of his interviews, he says that make the regulation which can check people like me. Again, it's like feedback correction, errors corrected. SEBI is doing their best, but again there are flaws. Like recently, who's that lady? SEBI has been a clearance to prosecute her.
Sorry, sir?
There's one lady that SEBI का जिसका केस चल रहा था ना यार.
Ah, oh, um, Chanda
Anyway,
Coach or nahi?
yeah. So SEBI has given the clearance to. She was a CEO, if I'm not wrong, and SEBI has given a clearance to go ahead for the prosecution.
Chanda Coach, na, sir?
हाँ, जनता
ICICI.
को मैं SEBI की बात कर रहा हूँ.
Acha.
पिछले हफ्ते
That, yeah. Correct. I forget her name. I forget her name. Soros was angry when his cronies in India failed to threaten Modi even during the BBC documentary and Hindenburg report came out. Since the cronies failed after being paid millions, so he decided to do it. The
yeah,
full question is his appearance recently a sign that he's declaring that he's entered the fight or a sign of desperation? I think personally for him, sir, before you answer, and I may differ from your opinion, I think it's a sign of some amount of desperation.
I would say the
Misplayed his hand.
same. I was about to say desperation. When you want to make a next move, you don't declare a war in this kind of a game.
It's quite funny actually.
And see, the thing is that you can point a finger at this PM uh, if he has made any financial gains. Well, he dresses up well. He has to because at the international level, he has to go and interact with all head of the states. But ना उसके पास क्या बोलते हैं कोई बंगला है ना गाड़ी है ना कोई बिजनेस है उसको तो हाउ विल यू लाइक पॉइंट अ फिंगर एट हिम यार क्या क्या लड़ाई कर लोगे उससे आदमी उस आदमी से
ये
He's
तो
a wrong person if you ask me. Like Mohatir had some corruption charges on him, and so was hungry PM for that matter. So he could play a game over there. यहाँ पे उसका narrative काम ही नहीं कर रहा यार यहाँ पे. I'm not being a bhakt and saying all this thing, but the fact is that you can see it's not working.
indeed, sir. If Soros is so notorious to the world, why the covert agency CIA, MI6, Mossad have not been able to fix him so far? Why would they want to?
They're also involved in his activities.
Why would they want to? They use their networks.
They
The
use the
MFA.
net.
I'm not trying to make a generalized statement here, but if you add raw also, they'll be using some network somewhere. It's national interest at the end of it. So
Yeah. Each
politicians,
agency has their national interest.
yeah, politicians won't do anything because he's funding the politicians.
Yeah.
He's funding those guys. So why would they, uh, why would they want to do that?
Oh, look at Biden. He has given a clean chit to China, saying those are not spy balloons here.
He's short of saying declaring them as their own weather balloons.
वो clean chit दे दिया जैसे इंडिया में भी clean chit देते थे दूसरी तरफ
I'm
because
just,
his business interest in what we call China here.
I'm just joking, but that's the whole thing. You find this whole thing grinding up and then going down. I mean, Soros has backers in the deep state network. It's the one conspiracy guys called the New World Order, colloquially, of course.
यार अंदर ऐसा है, मैंने बोला एक सोरस गया दूसरा सोरस आएगा, उसके पीछे जो पावर है, who's playing the game, that will keep changing as per the international politics. It's all dynamic. India should progress also, but they don't want India to progress. India should be counter to China, but India should not be self-sufficient. This game will keep going on from different directions, and we have to be careful. That's all.
Absolutely. या इतना पैसा लगा के पॉलिटिकल पार्टी भी स्टार्ट नहीं कर सकते थे, बस इससे राइट कराना है. अगेन ही कंफर्म्स दैट ही इज एन एजेंट ऑफ अनार्की. डजंट हैव अ democratic, there is nothing to do with democracy in this, Ashish. Let me assure you this: democracy, human rights is a facade. Rest is all, I mean, sorry, but that's just the minute I
And
heard democracy and Soros in the same sentence, I'm like, yaar, ye to
yeah, मेरी बात सुन. Soros is, denouncing the very system which made him a billionaire. He wants people like him, Jeff, Mark, and who's that other guy? Yeah, the 4 or 5 big guys. Only they should control the world. Then he wants to be a leftist also, but wants to make money with capitalism of the West. It's all, matter of opportunity for it, nothing else. और कोई दुनिया में ह्यूमन राइट्स वगैरह नहीं है, सबको अपना मतलब है बीच में.
people backing George Soros make a huge amount of money by doing regime changes, riots, economic collapse, etc.
They are mercenaries.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how to incite violence in Delhi during G20 meeting in September? Would that embarrass India? Would you invest in India if that happened?
They tried during Trump's visit also.
It won't work. That's why I'm smiling. You know, it won't work.
अभी इकोसिस्टम नहीं रिएक्ट कर पा रहा है जॉर्ज सोरोस के सिस्टम पे, कहीं से तो कहीं की डंडा लगा हुआ है. एज सिंपल एज दैट.
It won't work. I mean,
मैं ज्यादा बोल नहीं सकता है, मैंने बोल दिया थोड़ा बहुत जो बोलना है.
you have to be very careful in this aspect of it. But one has to be knowingful of one factor, that you know it's a dog eat dog world at the end of it. It's not a, you kind of fall, you die, you
Yeah.
stand, you sustain. It's as simple as that. And I mean, the way I don't, I'm not uh, for violence or for war, but the way Russia has stood up against this whole system, it will survive. If it, I mean, if it keeps standing to the end of whatever comes to, otherwise he dies. There's nothing else. It's a, it's an
Russians
all-out war.
Russians are good fighters.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a good old saying: now the Americans know how to make weapons,
Yeah.
the Chinese know how to copy them, the Russians know how to use them. So Soros has failed. The cartel identified the damage, and damage control is done in time. Nothing to worry about.
Never underestimate your enemy. We have to be on guard and all this. That's all.
I mean, yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. Never underestimate. Brown Raja Sahibs are sending their children to Indian finance service, preparing them for financial prostitution of their services.
Very nice. Next.
I mean, there's no question. There's no doubt about it. Cambridge
But we,
University is a Ford Foundation ground, and this guy is going there. Adivasi lives matter is a narrative. Yeah, they tried that as well.
that, there are so many foundations doing different things, but it's not working at the moment. See, you have to realize one thing. Yeah, if I say something, they'll call it. But the government is actually connecting a right chord with the people in everywhere, for that matter. And how they're doing it, I don't know. But the only thing is that, as I said, a certain section of people, we have to. The idea of this program is to let them know that we should not fall for any narrative or propaganda, be it from the ruling party or be it from the opposition, from either side.
I mean, I'd like to add something to what you said. So see, the as we grow as a country, you know, this is something that is going to happen. Why are we upset? That actually should tell us that you're on the right track, and there are forces trying to stop you, because they know if this guy is let loose and let to grow, he will take us over. So that tells you the capacity. I mean, even within India, the understanding of the capacity of India is very, very little. And yesterday, again, I'll go back to the discussion with Janan Shankar, and I think we've had this discussion 2 3 times, sir, where we said we are so underconfident about ourselves. We don't believe and trust ourselves कि हम लोग कुछ कर सकते हैं. I mean, if you look at our indices today in the major things which matter, we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 in 1 or 2 places. Rest is right up there.
Right up there. And the biggest
So,
advantage of India is, what, of our finances and economy. We are very, very wide base economy.
hmm,
एक अडानी को हिलाने से कुछ नहीं होता है. They thought LIC SBA will go down with that kind of a narrative. It didn't happen.
didn't happen. And secondly, one big thing that was used last time to create narratives was Twitter.
Yeah,
Whatever said and done, I personally have a big doubt on the motives of Elon Musk. But till now, it's rather clean. And you don't have a one-sided narrative with Twitter kind of. I mean, at the rate Twitter and complaints to this and that and the other have, I just don't see them anymore on Twitter at all.
that is true.
So that one game is gone. I mean, previously if you tweeted something against Ukraine, your account would get banned.
Yeah.
Today people are sharing videos, this, that, सब कुछ चल रहा है. There's nobody, kind of. So there's one big hit as far as the biggest propaganda channel, which is a cross-world propaganda channel, which has happened to the ecosystem, sir.
That is true.
So that's a interesting, you
That's what
know,
that's why they're getting desperate. No?
communication जा रहा है. So one by one, I think, Adani hit was about the transshipment project in the Andaman, of which EOI was issued by the government.
No, it was more to do with the Suez special business zone at the Haifa port. I would say.
Haifa. But the West has the West ever so openly said before before said to overthrow the government of our country only before the perceive Modi government as a pro-Hindutva government, which the West does not like and considers Hindu hardliners.
Well, this is again a narrative now. Yeah, that's what I said. किसने बोला है ये? किसने बोला है ये? मतलब, I don't know. Maybe a couple of leaders for their vote bank, they may have made this statement, but generally, you tell me, has the government shown any signs of making it a Hindu Rashtra or Hindutva, something like that?
Actually, from the hardline, not I won't say hardline, but
Hardline को
the
पहले constitution change करना पड़ेगा. Constitution कैसे change करोगे तुम?
yeah, from the pro, so-called Hindu groups, if there are any, I don't see it much, but if there are any, they say that, oh yeah, the government ने कुछ नहीं करा. So
Yeah.
they're actually upset that ये कुछ नहीं करते हैं.
They are upset actually. On the contrary.
So it's quite funny that when somebody says something like that, and you find, I mean, anyways, I normally don't get into this domestic politics and religion and this and that, but it's damn funny. I keep laughing about it that यार ऐसा है ये तो, do be damned, don't do be damned. It's just like that, sir. Sir, last two questions we'll take up, and
Yeah.
last two comments we'll take up. Yeah, I read that during 2008 Olympics, where Xi Jinping was basically head west oriented protests happening in Beijing to embarrass China, as it was seen at the rise of China. Is it true? So they can try it with G20. Why not? They will.
That's why I said we have to be on guard all the time. Yeah, like things will be done. We shouldn't take it now lying down and say be quiet about it and be complacent and say that कि यार अभी तो कुछ हुआ नहीं है तब भी नहीं हो. It's something like that. Another factor rate, raise the cost. That's what enemy does also, to raise your cost, to be alert, to be on alert all the time, so that your resources are diverted to one side and you can. That's what I said, they are doing it to retard the progress and if possible crash it.
Absolutely. And to the point that you made about Haifa, Himanshu says here that Chinese were the second highest bidder for Haifa. Connect the dots. Exactly.
Exactly. And Haifa is very important actually because Mediterranean is the area of operation of Sixth Fleet, and that's the repatriation, repair, and what we call entertainment, whatever they call it, that port for Americans.
R&R.
Yeah. And the Egypt side or Suez, special business zone.
It's right there. Get out of Suez, take a right, you're there at Haifa.
Yeah. Yeah. And then your Mediterranean connects to the what you call this Messina Strait. You go up further and you through Bosphorus and Dardanelles and Bosphorus you're into the Black Sea. That we discussed last time.
You know, just to close up, sir, you firstly, thank you so much. You brought out some very interesting things as far as the money is concerned. Because, a lot of talk has happened on uh, what he does, what his history is, what he did before, and stuff like that. The main thing that I think we need to look at all the time, and I said this at the beginning, and I think my statement gets reinforced quite hard, is that follow the money and you'll get your answers. Absolutely correct. And this presentation has actually brought that out very, very beautifully. I'm sure all of you guys who are watching, you feel the same way. And, please share your comments and your feedback about this particular video. The factor about George Soros, to me, and just to close up, I think both of us will agree on this, that just the sheer factor that he came out and he had to say what he had to say
No.
tells us that his position is not as strong as what it was probably 2016, 17, 18, when he had promised to put $1 billion, and he had put in $1 billion against betting against India. So you can imagine. And the best thing is that, just to give a comparative on the last note, is that he put $128 million for Joe Biden's re-election, and he put $1 billion against India. That tells you India is not that easy. It's not that easy. Sir, thank you so much. Lovely talking to you. And thanks once again for the presentation. Guys, thank you so much joining. Before I sign off, please, please, please touch the like button. This is an interesting conversation that should go and touch people and kind of make them understand about the factor of the money, because at the end of it, like somebody is writing here very clearly, that it's all about economics and power, identity and all that stuff. So it's nothing to do with anything else. It's just all the money, and we need to kind of ensure that we are on top of the game so that our country becomes and achieves where it is supposed to go. Thank you so much, sir, and till next time, Jai Hind.
Again, good night. Good night, everybody.